Alright boys, how you doing?
Marvellous.
I've been better.
Aye. And I thought getting COVID would be the shittest thing to happen to me this week. Fucking thanks, Hearts. Thanks a lot for that. Jesus. Funny games in it, which we just sit in silence for like an hour and a half.
Well, what we'll do is splice in that video of you sniffing tubs of garlic and chilli that you sent in the group chat half an hour ago, because that's probably the funniest thing and the brightest thing to happen to me all weekend. So I think everybody else that's listening or watching this will probably benefit from it.
Aye, and if anybody is suffering from COVID and is fine, everything taken into consideration, and you're fit and healthy as much as you can be, it's great fun. I literally cannot smell or taste anything. I've ate lemons, I've ate onions, I've ate tablespoons of mustard, chilies, just to prove a point, because it's keeping myself sane, and it's better than watching your team get fucked 5-0 in Glasgow. So there we go. There's anything, if anybody that hasn't watched it and want to do anything better, there you go. I've just gave you some suggestions as to what you can get up to. So this week we'll obviously have the joyful task of going over the goals of Hearts 0, Rangers 5. And to be honest, even the bigger disappointment result in the week was Hibernian 0, Hearts 0. So we'll look over both of them. We'll preview Wednesday's next game, where we're at home to Dundee, where we can right a wrong, because again, we dropped 2 points. One of the worst sides I've seen it play at Tynecastle this season. They were absolute dog shit and got a draw. We will preview Livingston in the Cup on Saturday. Obviously, that now becomes the big focus for me in terms of where we are, the results this weekend. And over the last couple of games, to be honest with you, couldn't have fell any better from a Hearts perspective. We very much touch wood. I know that it's all if Manty had balls and all that sort of stuff. But we can end the game on Wednesday in a very healthy position in terms of Ford Motherwell got beat, Hibs get beat, Aberdeen get beat, Dundee United drop points. So we're in a very healthy position for that. We'll look over our predictions actually, because we did a bit of a predict the opening 5 games of the season, which was St Johnstone, Auchinleck, Motherwell, Celtic and Hibs. So we'll go back over the goals of that, see how people performed, and why no do it for our next 5, which is Dundee, Livy, St Johnstone, St Mirren and Aberdeen. We'll go through our headlines and all that sort of stuff as well. Brilliant, isn't it?
Sort of.
I thought we would have been buzzing because Hearts have been shite in 2 games and it gives us something to fucking moan about. But 3 of them have shat the bed and no came on the pod.
Well, no one knows where Shanks is. It's like asking where on earth is Carmen San Diego. I'm showing my age there. Tam's crying it off because he's just a wee dick, and Brad's just busy being a dad. So that's fair enough. Just 3 of us, but it is a shame. I had a few folk to go after the day, and we'll just have to save it for the next episode.
We just need to save it, put it in the back burner, and we'll bring it up next week. But we'll start with something light-hearted. Kev, give us your Kevin McKenna's players for this week, and then I believe you got a wee quiz for us after.
I certainly do. I had nothing else today. Round about 5:30 tonight because the football was shite. So for that point of view, yeah, nice little quiz. And as I said earlier on, pre-recording, I've at least got the 2 guys who know something about Hearts, and I'm just setting up for you,
mate. Thanks a lot, Kev.
Exactly. That is setting us up for failure. Listen, Corbett, who the hell's that? Corbett's got COVID, and I'm not very well. I'm tired. I'm knackered, and I can't be bothered, quite frankly. So that's it. All my stresses and fractures are going to show now. Thanks, Kev.
But the shameless thing is, my balls have never been smoother. So there you go.
Well, I've got my Zimmer down here somewhere. 2 seconds.
Wait, your Zimmer frame or the old? Because I didn't know what to watch if you're about to get that out.
There we go. There we go.
That was weird. Never made a sound, but that's fine.
Did it not? Oh, it wasn't like hell in my ears. It's really horrible. Is it's actually still got some pubes in the teeth from when I actually used it.
It's you that does the edit. I'm going to get Tam to cut pubes in your teeth. You saying it.
Oh,
you
no.
You get that as a ringtone.
That's he does the video edit. I do the audio, so I'll leave that in. I'll take the piss clean out myself. May as well.
There we go. There's a rabbit hole. There's a rabbit hole that cheered us up a bit, Kev.
I never thought we could do that one.
True.
Right,
Kevin McKenna's his players, geezed them.
Kevin McKenna's players this week. Firstly, this player celebrates his birthday on the same day as myself, the 21st of January.
1901.
Signed by Levine in his first spell from Airdrie for £135,000, which I cannot fucking believe, but anyway. And he will be remembered for a sublime strike against Celtic.
Right.
So that's your first one. Second one, maybe a little bit for tonight anyway. Started his career in Belgium before moving to Roda in Holland. Played over 100 league games for Hearts, scoring 14 goals. Currently playing in Cyprus, but I believe hasn't kicked a ball all season due to injury, and also a winner of the AFCON Championship. So that's your two players for this week. We can take answers now, or we can do them at the end of the show.
I'm going to need time to Google that, Kev, so
That's
if we
fine,
do it at the end, that's fine.
I can't believe we spent that much money on him.
Can he?
That's a kick in the teeth, isn't it? That is a stupid money.
I can't think of anybody we've signed from Airdrie.
Oh,
like genuinely not. I can't think of a single player. But
well, never mind. Right, Kev, you've also got a quiz for us.
So I've got a quiz for us for this week as well. So
what are we doing? Are we hands up in the air and me and Ando just answering the questions?
If you want to do it that way, mate, you're more than welcome. Happy to have hands up or on tits, whatever you want. You bash on with that one, Ando. So what I've done is I've done a quiz based around tonight's game and, of course, the game on Wednesday night. So all around Rangers, Hearts and Hearts Dundee. So the first one is Van Bronckhorst's first game for Rangers was against Hearts at Tynecastle in the 98-99 season. Hearts won 2-1. Can you tell me the goal scorers in that game? Point for each. So
98-99. So it was the season after we won the cup.
It was the game after we won the Scottish Cup, mate.
We know, but was it like 3 games in a row we beat them or something, wasn't it? Because we beat them in the league game before, beat them in the cup final and beat them in the first game of the season.
I think it was Dick Advocaat's first game.
Aye. Colin Cameron.
So you go with Colin Cameron. Incorrect.
Flogel.
Incorrect.
Because Robbo scored. Did he not score in the games before the cup final?
He scored in the cup. No, he didn't score in the cup. The game against before the cup final. It was this player or one of these players who scored before the cup final, and a cup final scorer.
Colin Cameron.
Adam,
Correct. Stefan Adam.
Yep.
Scored after 6 minutes.
I already said Colin Cameron, didn't I?
Aye, it wasn't him.
I'm tired. Leave me alone.
Neil
McCann.
Did they sign Neil McCann that summer, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know. Did they?
I think you could be right. I think it was that summer.
Dick Advocaat was one of his first. Jim Hamilton.
Jim Hamilton. Well done.
Jim Hamilton.
Corbett.
Useless, that guy.
Who scored for them? Was it Marco Negri?
No.
Because that was no. Who was the guy? Well, it was Marco Negri. That's like eye fell out or something like that, wasn't it?
He played squash.
Like 5. He scored like 5 against us at Ibrox or something, didn't he? And then his eye fell out.
His eye fell out playing squash with Sergio Perini or something like that.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a blast for the past. Goal for Rangers that day was Wallace.
Oh, right.
Rodney. Wallace, aye.
Rodney, right, okay. So okay. I get 2 points there. Thank you.
2 points for Corbett. Question 2. Rangers won the 96 Cup final. We won't talk about the score. But who scored for Hearts that day?
David Weir, John Robertson.
John Robertson.
You're just going to go through the whole team.
Steve Fulton. No, that's who scored.
No.
For Hearts. We got beat 3-2.
For Hearts that day. No, we got beat 5-1. 3 goals for Jury, 2 for Land.
It was John Cahoon. was
I'm
John
thinking the
Cowan. He scored a
4-3 game.
screamer. I was
you're thinking of the League Cup.
He scored a screamer, John Cowan.
Corbett takes a 3-0 lead. Hearts play Dundee on Wednesday night. In the opening game of last season, we put 6 past Jack Hamilton, but a point for each of Dundee's scorers.
Pay attention.
Can I get a point? Can I get a point for every Dundee player that I know?
Charlie Adam.
Right.
Well done, Ando. Ando puts his cell on the board.
Paul McMullen or something like that he's called.
Aye, Paul Mullen is the other one. Corbett takes one back. Later that season, we won 2-1. But who was sent off for Hearts in the last minute?
Peter Haring.
Peter Haring. Well done, Corbett. Corbett's on a 5-1 victory here at the moment. And final question.
Pretend you're on mute or something.
No, I'm not coming back.
for a nearest to pin. Nearest to pin, according to worldfootball.net, Hearts have won 106 games across both League and Scottish Cup against Dundee. But how many goals have we scored in total? So, nearest to pin. 106 games.
254.
254 for Ando.
370.
Now you're fucking asking me. No, Corbett actually takes it. I've just had a look. The correct answer is 382. So you were only 12 off, Mr. Corbett.
Thank you.
So that simply means that Corbett wins 6-1, which is what I'm hoping for and expecting on Wednesday night as a home victory.
If they score, I'll be raging, Kev. I watched them against Ross County and they were absolute fucking dog shit.
Well, see, that's what happens when you have COVID. You've got to watch shite football as well.
Nothing else to do. There's nothing else to do. And I thought the obvious thing would be to piss myself laughing and watch Hibs St Mirren, but I thought, nah. After we failed to beat them, I take no joy in watching them make an absolute to it. And then knowing that we were fine, well, we were about to make it on Sunday as well. So there you go. Something for Tam to do. Something for Tam to do. Right. Thanks, Kev. I always enjoy winning quizzes, not just a pretty face, as they say in a business. Headlines for the week. So we'll talk a bit in a wee minute. We'll go into a wee bit more detail. Obviously, we've put on social media, and as you boys know, we've had it planned in now for the Hibs fans that are listening that thinks it's because you let the Lady for Scottish Slimmers sing a wee song pre-match on Tuesday, and you had your big screens on Tuesday that we've suddenly reacted. It's been in the diary for 3 months. We tried to get this meeting with the club around about October, then November, then December, and it got pushed back to January due to COVID and all that sort of stuff. But we obviously had discussions this week. We formed a working group with the club, the Foundation of Hearts, head of security, head of ticketing, head of marketing, with a view of the all-round general atmosphere and match day experience at Tynecastle. We'll talk about it in a wee bit more depth, but Hearts-related headlines this week. Henderson signed a new deal. He's got a year. And we punted him off to Alloa again for the remainder of the season. Thoughts, I suppose he's in form when he's there, but how is he ever supposed to impress us or make an impact when he's not even at the football club? It's a bit strange, isn't it?
One of these. We've got a few players that are like that. That like I get the 16 and 17-year-olds going out on loan to sort of teams that to get a bit of game time, but Ewan Henderson's that one just mystifies me. It's a bit like Jamie Brandon. It's like they're never gonna get. I just don't see how they're going to get into the first team. If you've not made it by now and you're not part of the main squad, then you're likely not going to be.
It's a good point. It's a good point, Ando, and it's something something I seen yesterday that Hearts are interested in looking at the putting out a B squad, similar to what Rangers and Celtic are wanting to do, and put them in at the what would be effectively the second division, because there's no reserve league nowadays.
Okay, before this, I asked you, What do you want to talk about? What headlines? And you gave me the most dog shit answers ever. I've written down Frank McAvoy as if anybody listening gives a shit about our youth coaches. And then you throw this curveball at me, which is an actual valid talking point, and now you're just going to ruin it.
Yeah, my bad. My bad, mate. I'm sorry. I do apologise. However, I do think it's a very good and valid point that somebody like Henderson could actually do pretty well in that kind of league. Similarly with other players, as you just mentioned there, Ando, is so sometimes they can go out to these particular provincial clubs and actually not play. We've got the keeper, Harry, what's his name, at Partick Thistle, and
Harry
he's
Stone.
And he's done absolutely.
Harry
absolutely
Who the hell's that? I think he sings in One Direction.
No, we've got a youth team player, Harris. No, it's genuinely his name, Harris Spratt. He's away on loan somewhere. So.
All right, okay.
Then he poo me when you can fuck all, you cheeky bastards.
But no, I think it's interesting. I know Henderson's actually done really well while at Alloa, which is good on him. But is that maybe his level?
Yep. Well, let's talk your actual fucking point that you made about the Colt teams. Me personally, cannot be hypocritical and say we are dead against Rangers and Celtic shoehorning their Colt teams into the lower leagues. If they want to have Colt teams in the pyramid, they start at the very, very bottom and they work their way up. That's fine. And it's the exact same principle for Hearts. If Hearts want to enroll Colt teams into leagues, fine. I'm not a massive fan of it. I would much prefer, like you said, Kev, to have the resumption of the reserve league because it's a better route. You play against men, and that, as much as I hate saying phrases like that, but you play against guys that are coming back from injury. You play against seasoned pros that are on the plane week in, week out, and youngsters. It's a good mix. It's a good balance. Under 23 football is rubbish, but just because we're Hearts fans, I would be, like I said, it'd be hypocritical of me to say I'm all for it to see us shoehorned into, for example, the Highland League or the Lowland League or whatever the plan is. If we're going to do it, fine, but show the leagues the respect that they deserve. Start from the bottom and work your way back up. Do you know what I mean? If that's what needs to happen.
I think the best thing is the resurgence or the coming back of the under 23. The reserve league itself is a much better idea. I know it was kiboshed because of COVID. We're out of various different restrictions nowadays, so let's reintroduce it from next season onwards.
Exactly. See, you're Kev. That was a much better thing to talk about than Frank McAvoy getting a job at the youth academy. Right, there we go. So anyway, Frank McAvoy used to be with Hamilton. No, he's not. He's at Hearts. Brilliant. Thanks. Move on. Right. Let's talk about the working group. So, again, as you'll have known, for ages now, we've been more than lucky with the response that we have to this podcast. It's managed to get us loads of opportunities that we would never ever have got. So again, it's all down to you guys, and thanks for the backing and all that sort of stuff. And get it right up, Kev Kyle, with his shitty patter of trying to slag us because we only had 3,000 followers. Well, those 3,000 followers have helped us raise well over £7,000. We've gave over 100 tickets away to Hearts fans that otherwise couldn't afford to go to games. We've gave training gear. We've gave match day experiences. We've managed to help people join working man's health groups and all this mental health stuff. So get it right up here. And anyway, those 3,000 followers and people that like the podcast have helped us get to a position where the club understand that we're a direct line and a direct source straight to the fan base. And for a while now, we've been in communication with the folk at the football club about making Tynecastle better on a match day. From everything from safe standing and singing sections to better wheelchair access, better public access in terms of concourses, turnstiles. For example, I walk along the cobbled street thing for Sainsbury's to Wheatfield and Goyer and my dodgy old legs. I can only imagine how hard that is for guys in wheelchairs or people with crutches and all that sort of stuff. We're looking at things like, and sorry, I can't remember the guy's name who was on. It might have been, was it Graham? Did we have one of you Foundation of Hearts guy? Was it Graham Robertson? Was he? Anyway,
Was that was the guy that's the bowls champion?
the Bulls guy, yeah.
Yeah, I was good.
Great. And he made some very, very valid points when we interviewed him about things like the toilet situation. I have a 2-year-old. If I took her to a Hearts game, for example, I don't even know if there's baby changing facilities at Hearts. I know that sounds mental. It's not what you go to football for. But as a dad, you would go now and think, would I take her into the boys' toilets to smoke 40 Lamberts and Butler and have a half bottle of tonic? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you look at the facilities, you look at the kiosks where even things like where they keep the brown sauce and tomato sauce and all that for folk that buy pies and all that sort of stuff. It's just run down. It's a bit of a shambles. So the whole working group that we've said on Twitter for everybody is to get people involved in all of it. The whole match day experience. It's not just, and I know that we've had a lot of folk who have been excited and jumping in to give their opinions on things like safe standing, which is absolutely on the agenda. We spoke about it at the club. The club are absolutely keen to introduce and explore safe standing. For the eagle-eyed amongst us that have been in Tynecastle will have seen that for nearly a year there has been rail seating within Section G. It was in the front row of the bottom section. There was maybe 4 or 5 seats in there just to see, one, how much space it would take up. Also, the club had said that they were looking at things like, so for example, we might have 40 people in our row. If you get rail seating, does it mean you can get 50 people in a row, or how does it work? So the club have explored it. They're happy to look into it for us. We talked about singing sections. I know that we've had various incarnations of sort of ultras or singing sections, and the club were very much of the opinion that they want it at Tynecastle. They want to engage with the young team. They want to have big flags, tifo displays. They want to have a singing section with safe standing and a drum and a megaphone, and they're happy to have all of that sort of stuff. So again, first meeting was Thursday of last week. We have another one pending for 2 to 3 weeks. So anybody that wants to be involved, we've had an outrageous response already. We have well over 60 people that have signed up to say they would like to be part of the working group. And I suppose the ask from us now is get your thinking caps on. Nothing too big, nothing too small. What do you notice on a match day, for example, that you would like to be better from a Hearts perspective? Ando, Kev, you've heard me talking about it at various points and stuff. It's pretty exciting stuff, isn't it?
Sure is.
Definitely.
I think the aspect that they've actually reached out to us shows that from a lot of work you've done yourself, Corbett, with them, as well as that they trust us, and that's a big thing. But they also look upon us as the link between the fans and then the club, so fans can get in touch with us via all our social medias, and then from that point of view, we can relay that back out to the club itself and take that possible idea forward, and that idea might be just something that's that little bit different and makes us stand out from the rest of the clubs across Scotland.
And like you say, I think you're right, but it's not so much specifically just us. I think it's like they understand that like podcasts and fan media and vlogs and all that sort of stuff are what fans, like you said, I would rather listen to Ando talk shit about football or Tam McManus. Like, it's easy. Both wanks, but I'd rather listen to my wank than Tam McManus. Like, do you know what I mean? And that's where we are. So like the club understand that they're going to get some things right, they're going to get some things wrong. Like, again, the car parking thing, the fucking shambles. £9 to park your car when you can park it for fucking nothing anywhere about Gorgie. Do you know what I mean? Like, the club still make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not everything in the day is going to hit the mark or whatever, but if they've got soundboards to bounce these things off, which is what we like to try and be, then we can at least try and help and nudge things along. So things we discussed on Thursday was create the whole of the Gorgie Road end, the whole lower section. So come out the concourse and then down all of that to be safe standing. Within that, behind the goals, build like an actual wee stand that you could have they call them a capo. It's the terminology. It's no Mac uppy tea, but they build a wee stand for the guy to stand up there with his drum and his megaphone and start the chants. Have big massive flags behind the goal for when we score and all that sort of stuff. And the club have said things like they'll maybe say, for example, they would announce it and say, right, in 2024 we're going to have Lower Gorgie. It's going to be safe standing. We're going to create section A and B or whatever, and the Wheatfield will be the new family section. So if you want to move over there. So they're going to go and explore it. We're going to explore if they could potentially make G and N safe standing or whatever. Like, they're going to go and explore what needs to happen. We're looking at things like, well, big screens at Tynecastle and scoreboards have been part of the main stand redevelopment since the day we announced it. So I think it's just COVID in the world that we live in terms of COVID is what's sort of put that on hold every now and again in terms of getting them installed and up and running and better LED surrounds and all that sort of stuff for advertising hoarding around the stadium. I think that's going to come in the summer this year.
The screens things probably feels like a bit of a inevitability, because if we look at the conversations around VAR that have been happening, you're going to need a method to display those decisions from wherever they come from, assuming it will be Hampden. But so if we get them in sooner, the better. Ideal.
Exactly.
Means we're set up for it.
And it's a bigger picture of tidying up Tynecastle and that as well. Like I've said, things we've been lucky enough to be able to wander pitch side and be in and around the internal gubbins of Tynecastle more than a few occasions over the last wee while. It's wee silly things like it costs you £15 to buy some masonry paint that's maroon, paint exposed bricks maroon. Do you know what I mean? Like, paint the girders white or maroon or something, just so that it doesn't just look like a bus stop, to coin a phrase that's used and thrown at us. So these are all things that like we want folk to come and help and get involved with. Other things as well that have been amazing that I hadn't even put into my head were things like, like a quiet room or a quiet space for folk that have that need, or if they've got autism or things like that and they're coming with their family, they shouldn't be excluded from that. So like a safe space somewhere where they can go, where the dad can go with his children but can still watch the game. Somebody made a good point the other day, like even screens in the concourse, you go for a pie, you miss the game because you didn't know what's happening because you can't see it. Toilets, everything. So get involved. We'll let you know. We'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it on Twitter. We'll put it on all the social medias as and when the next meeting takes place. All right.
Nice.
Right. We've spoke about this long and hard before the pod, but we feel that we're massive on this podcast, using our platform to spread good messages, to get involved in opportunities where we see fit, and to use it as a bit to talk shite and talk nonsense like we normally do, but to use it for broader, more serious points. Every single person that listens to this podcast will have known this scenario that's happened this week with Raith Rovers. We won't dive too much into the player details because we know who he is, and I'm not going to give him the time of day that he does not deserve. First and foremost, we know him personally, me and Kev, Martin Glass, Raith Rovers supporter. Superb initiative in terms of starting the GoFundMe to raise money for Rape Crisis Scotland. I believe the total is now over £12,000. That's right, Kev, isn't it?
Yeah, 12,700 and such pounds, which is staggering given that this was only launched by Martin on, I think, Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon. So to effectively generate not just that kind of money, but the various different talking points that this particular episode in Raith Rovers history, because it'll be spoken about for years to come. To generate that kind of money off the back of it is staggering, and well played to Martin.
Yep, indeed, well played to actually loads of Raith Rovers fans and the wider Scottish football community. Scottish football can be bitter and petty, as we know we are. We pour loads of petrol and loads of fires.
We fly that flag.
Yes, we absolutely do. But absolutely when it needs to, and it needs to come together to make a point and to stand by something, Scottish football is unrivaled. And it was great to see that far and wide the condemnation of the signing itself. Now we need to talk about things like Denise Clare, who's the victim, who has been nothing but an absolute trooper in terms of having to relive this nonsense. Having, like, I read her thing in the paper today, it's Sunday, it was in the Sunday Post or whatever, having fans abusing her, having chants at games, having club officials abusing her and all that sort of stuff. She's never received a penny from either of the convicted, or whatever you want to call it, because obviously it was a civil action case and all that sort of stuff. But the absolute sort of strength and courage from her is what should be the thing that we all talk about. It should be Denise Clare, the person that we speak about when we talk about this. We should talk about Val McDermott and all the other Raith Rovers fans that got together and said, no, this isn't happening, not on our watch, to all the wider Scottish community as well in football that said, no, this isn't standing around. And believe me, the fight isn't over, because as we record this now, there are murmurings that he's potentially going to be in line for about £150,000 payout, which is an absolute shambles. My last point in all this there is that I said the news story is the brave face and the strength and courage that Denise Clare has showed through all of this, the 10 years of heart, the 10 years of not getting any form of justice. The bigger picture for me is something that I don't think Scottish football talks about enough, is because you're good at playing football, you're good at scoring goals or whatever it is. Football in general, not just Scottish football, we've seen it with Mason Greenwood as well, is that we need to grow up. There's a culture here where just because there are heroes one day or they're heroes on a Saturday, it doesn't mean that they can live outside a moral compass that we don't live with ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's Gordon Strachan, for all his many, many flaws and many things. We nailed it in the interview that went viral or whatever from a few years ago, talking about morals. We've got drink drivers, we've got serial cheaters, we've got sex offenders, we've got rapists, and they still play football. They still play in a privileged position. And for me, this weird thing that kept coming up, Graham Spears, we won't talk about the actual thing that he tweeted, but you'll have all seen it. He is somebody that's he is massive in media in this country. And the tweet is just, I don't know if it's because the world we live in, you need likes, you need clicks, you need retweets to justify your position of where you are. But to have the gall to say that we need to protect and have absolutely no mention of the victim is beyond comprehensible in this world that we live in. That he's an intelligent person, he understands what it is. He has wife, he has kids, he has family, he has friends. That's just a pathetic stance, and I think that Scottish football in general, needs to bin this culture where just because somebody is good at doing something on a football pitch between 3 and 5 on a Saturday, we will ignore what they get up to away from the pitch. We need to start holding football players accountable for their actions, because it's not acceptable.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's like there's that, and then there's also the other part of it, which is everything like this is sensationalism aspect. I mean, without going into politics, you look at everything that's been in the news for the last couple of weeks about Partygate and all this sort of stuff. Graham Spears, let's be honest, is an absolute pinhead, right? And all he is a guy that's went out there and peddled this story. I don't believe that he believes a word of his own nonsense. Then he's doing this for essentially what is clickbait, and that is part of where we are as a society. It's what sells. Is how many clicks you can get on a website, how many people you get tuning into Sky News or whatever it might be. Them selling advertising space alongside your main story. That's how companies make money these days, and it's absolutely stinking. It needs to stop. Obviously, not to take away from the point that you make about the player and obviously all the fracas surrounding it, but It's just where we're going as not as a nation, but just as a society in general. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. And like I said before, what we said there was everybody is entitled to rehabilitate. Because you did a bad thing once doesn't mean you're a bad person for life. I get all that, right? Absolutely. But football's a privilege, and we need to bin this thing that rehabilitation has to be football's point, or has to be their cross to carry. It shouldn't have football as a privilege. It should be taken away straight away. Then they can rehabilitate away from football, where they're not getting 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 20,000 pounds a week, because they'll never rehabilitate properly. They're never going to. They live in a bubble where nobody says no, nobody tells them no, everybody tells them they're great, everybody tells them they're amazing. They don't learn. Football needs to have this situation under control where cut the ties for rehabilitation. It's not our responsibility. They had a privilege, take it away. That's their rehabilitation. They don't get that privilege anymore. They have to go and assimilate themselves into normal life and be accountable for their actions. Yeah,
fair.
I think that's where football needs to grow up. Right, let's move on. I'd say let's move on to something cheerier to speak about, but we've got fucking talk about the Derby and Rangers now. So we'll talk about Rangers. There's nothing much to talk about, if I'm being honest with you. We'll touch on it briefly because you can't get beat 5-0 and then expect us just to ignore it. But let's talk about Derby first and foremost. Obviously, Kev, Ando, you watched it on the telly. Lucky you, I got COVID. So did the person I was with, and so did the other person that was 3 rows away from me. So we seem to be, whatever the section of the stand was, seemed to be COVID daft. Your thoughts, Kev, on the starting 11, the 90 overall? What was your thoughts?
Looking at the starting 11 before the game, I was quite happy with it. I still believe that I prefer Cochrane in at that left wing back than Halliday, admittedly. But given the fact of the way Halliday played against Motherwell, I didn't really have any qualms about the starting 11 at all. I was quite happy with it. I generally thought that was enough to win the game. So from that point of view, I was more than happy with that. Once the game started, though, again, like we've mentioned, God knows how many times we were slow to start. I don't know what the hell goes through their heads, but we're really slow to start. However, within that first 12 minutes or whatever it was, there was a massive decision to be made by the referee, and he made an absolute mess of it. Which was, of course, the first of the 2 penalty claims. This one, as far as I'm concerned, is a lot more of a stonewaller than the other, because the other one you can argue distance, etc., etc. But Sims, you can see he gets the first touch. He puts the ball away from Stevenson, and Stevenson simply doesn't get anywhere near him and takes him out, or doesn't get anywhere near the ball, should I say, and takes Sims out. So from that point of view, it is a penalty, and although it wouldn't be a red card, it would be a second yellow for him, and they're down to 10 men. It changes the whole game, and it comes back to the fact that we've said, referees have got to be able to make these decisions, and technology needs to be involved in helping them make those particular decisions.
Agreed. We'll talk about the penalty decision in a wee bit, in a wee bit more detail in a wee second. Ando, your thoughts, starting 11, sort of opening 45. What was your sort of take on it?
The starting 11 for me wasn't actually too bad. I was glad to see Sims getting a start, and obviously Civic in at the back. I don't think, looking back in it, that there's anything I would have specifically changed. I do agree with Kev's point that I think for the first 10 or 15 minutes, Hibs absolutely ran the show. It took us a while, as is the case with pretty much every game we play these days, is that the first 10 or 15 minutes is just so slow and pedestrian. It's almost like we've forgotten we're playing football. I think that's something we definitely need to look at going forward, and it can't be lost on anyone the fact that this happens every single game. We even seen it again today against Rangers, but obviously there's other factors at play with the Rangers game. But starting 11 couldn't grumble. Then it took us a while to settle into the game, and had it not been for those clowns that worked for the SFA, it could have been an entirely different result. But again, overwhelming thoughts from the game was, but barring maybe one or two incidents, I didn't really fear Hibs at all. And overwhelming positives is that absolutely just further enforced my opinions that Nisbet, Newell, and Wright for Hibs are absolute dog meat. It's like they're absolutely crap.
Obviously before the game, the atmosphere was obviously bouncing. We were in Middleton's before the match, walked to the game, all that sort of stuff. Inside the stadium was pretty decent. Fair play to Hibs in terms of their setup pre-match, to be honest with you, was pretty decent in terms of the wee guys with their tifo display added something. I thought like firework Phil to a certain extent with the flames and stuff, but it did seem to, whatever they did pre-match did seem to get their crowd pretty much well up for it.
Was their tifo display or whatever it was any good this time? Because I'll be honest, it wasn't really covered that well on the telly, so I didn't really see it.
I've seen pictures of it now that made it look better than it did in real life from the Hearts end, but then I suppose it's not for Hearts fans. Like, do you know what I mean?
Like across the way at the camera, yeah.
And fair play to them for getting Lewis Capaldi on as well before the game, or whoever it was, the lookalike. But whatever they did pre-match worked, because Middleton's to the ground, in the ground before the game, Hearts end was absolutely bouncing. But then again, game kicks off and the atmosphere in the away end died. Do you know what I mean? We start too slow. When you want to engage the crowd in a game like this, where you want them singing loud and getting right behind the team or whatever, that has to be reflected on the performance in the park, and we were too slow. And again, I get the benefit of being at the actual game, and that's not me trying to have a pop at you or whatever. But when I watch Hearts on the telly, it's a totally different experience to when you watch it in the game. But I absolutely agree with what you said. At no point in any of the game, to be honest, other than maybe the last 5 minutes, did I actually feel that Hibs were ever in the match. I thought, and it's really easy to say because we didn't win and they didn't win or whatever, but I actually thought Hibs were pretty poor. I thought Hearts were very, very, very poor as well. Demi Mitchell changed the game from Hibs in that aspect. They stopped us coming down that side because he actually gave us something to think about, because we'd almost had free reign to attack, and as much as the first 10-15 minutes we were sloppy and slow, I know they've hit the post or they've scored, but they're offside. So they only get those opportunities because they're offside. So it's not like they're great interchanging play or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like they didn't really cause us too much problems. Again, as we've seen today, Cammy Devlin has a chance that he blasts over the bar. I don't even know if he should leave it for Boyce, as it's beautiful play by Barry Mackay, finds him, can chest sit down. Boyce is coming in probably in a better angle to hit the volley, but Cammy tries to do a sort of hook volley back across the goalkeeper and puts it over. He then has a very good volley towards the end of the half that just goes over the bar, which was pretty decent. But Boyce and Sims grew into the game, started to play pretty well. But you're right, the first half, and this is what annoys me, is that when you're in the stadium, I'm the other side of the ground and could see Lewis Stevenson come across, not looking at the ball, and played no attempt to play the ball, and wipes Sims completely and utterly out the game. And it's at that point where it's like, right, well, the referee's got to make a decision. So what does he think has happened? So does he think in his head, does he think Lewis Stevenson wins the ball? Because the ball continues in the direction in which Ellis Sims is travelling, which would suggest he doesn't win the ball. So then does he suggest that Sims has dived? If so, it's a booking, because why would he dive? He's going past him with an opportunity to score. Why does he dive? So it's a booking. or he thinks that it's a perfectly reasonable challenge and play on, which is what he did. And none of it makes any sense.
It doesn't take an advanced degree in in physics or whatever to figure out the fact that Sims is going one direction and then all of a sudden after the impact goes in another direction, the ball continues the way it's going. It's clear and obvious to anybody that has two working eyes or even one working eye in their head that that's a penalty. It's beggars belief as to how he's not given that.
Aye, it does. And to be honest with you, look, I'll state from the start, right, that I think a draw was a fair result, right? Over the piece or whatever, yeah, but I know there's a couple of contentious penalty decisions that could have went Hearts' way or whatever, but to be honest with you, we've last minute of the game cleared one off the line. They've had a couple of half chances with a couple of minutes to go. A draw was fine. We didn't play well. We didn't deserve really anything more than to get a draw and what we got. But it is annoying because the Stonewall penalty against Motherwell at home, same situation. Andy Halliday's gone through on goal. We're 2-0 up. He's got an opportunity to score and he's wiped out. Guy's not even looking to play the ball. No penalty, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, which I just think is absolutely baffling. We actually Celtic should have had a man sent off at Tynecastle when Near Beaton gets a second booking and he doesn't, he misses it. It's not just the fact that it should have been a penalty. It also should have been a second booking and a sending off, which changes the whole complexion of the game. We go 1-0 up. Like I said, I didn't think Hibs were great. Don't get me wrong, I thought in terms of their aggression and their work rate or whatever, they harried us. They were matched us in terms of, I thought the midfield battle was quite good. I thought between Devlin and Benny and Newell and whatever he's called, whatever the other person in there was called, Jake Doyle Hayes or something like that.
That's him.
I thought that was quite a good battle, but ebbed and flowed. We were getting the upper hand in parts, and then they were getting the upper hand in parts. I actually thought Atkinson played very well up until did he get a head knock or something? Get a head knock, or you can draw the line in the sand and say to the minute that Demi Mitchell came on, kind of changed the game, like I said, in their direction. The biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about, for me, the biggest turning point in the game outside of the penalties is our substitutions. They just made, for like I've just said there, the Hibs one substitution, Mitchell, changed the game in a positive aspect for them, but the introduction of Ben Woodburn and to a lesser extent Gino, it just, I don't know if it was because Mackay had to go off and then Boyce had to go off, but it just felt like it sucked the life out of us and completely and utterly changed our dynamic up front.
I mentioned that last week, didn't I? I mean, I mentioned the fact that without Barry Mackay, then there's no creativity, and it seemed to just dry up as soon as he went off the park. When you take out Boyce as well, and Ando, you go on about how Boyce holds the ball up brilliantly. There was nobody really to do that. It was like we changed our whole setup. The whole element of the substitutions on Tuesday night was just strange. Just killed the whole momentum of the actual team itself.
And is there a bigger picture problem? Because we've seen it again today where Ellis Sims has hit the ground running and looked brilliant. Scored one, created one, was a handful against Celtic, did very well against Motherwell. For me, bossed it in terms of Rocky, whatever he's called, and Porteous. I thought he played very, very well against the both of them, handled them well. But we haven't changed our shape. We've just stuck him up front and moved Boyce to the wide right, as he's played again today, put Ellis through the middle. Have we got a bigger problem trying to fit the both of them into the team? Do we need to change shape?
No, I don't think so. I think what the difficulty with the two games in which this has happened is it comes down to the opposition, right? So a derby derby's a powder keg, right? Let's be honest. The form, I know it's cliched and it's bollocks and all that stuff, but a derby can be a coin flip game, right? The form goes out the window. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much in terms of what happened in the derby. Again today, we were at Rangers' mercy almost. Because they looked utter dog shit. Every single player that played for them on Wednesday was absolutely utter crap. Today was a statement game for them. They had to come back and absolutely wipe the floor with whoever it was they were playing. Just so happened that it was us. I don't think there's a bigger problem. However, I do caveat that with the fact that if if we continue to play shite against meagre opposition, so against and full disrespect to them, because they're a shite team. But when we play Livy on Saturday, if we do play that same shape and it doesn't work out, then questions have got to be asked. I think you kind of almost get away with it in a sense because it's been a derby and you're playing a wounded animal in Rangers today. I don't think there's a bigger problem just now. However, I reserve the right to come back and absolutely kick the fuck off in 2 or 3 weeks if it doesn't work against lesser opposition.
So, Kev, this becomes a bit hindsight because after the game, if you'd spoke to me on Wednesday about Devlin and Benny, we'd had a different conversation. But obviously today we've took a scudding. But I actually I thought Benny was brilliant on Tuesday. I thought Devlin was brilliant on Tuesday. When I think, like I've said before, of some of the horrors that we've had in the middle of the park in derbies, it was great to see proper Hearts players in there, sticking their foot in, winning the ball. But Benny's brilliant at taking the ball in tight situations, making turns, making passes, skills, getting past folk and all that sort of stuff was great. But the carry, absolute no goal threat whatsoever. There was more than one occasion on Tuesday where Benny had the ball, for example, 35, 30, 25 yards away from goal, and you know that he's not going to shoot. The park opens up in front of him, and you think Ollie Lee's banged one in the top bag, Ryan Stevenson's banged one in the top bag. If you don't shoot, you don't score. And Devlin again today has missed sitters. He missed sitters on Tuesday. Is that sort of, I don't know, do you just have to accept that because of the way that the two of them play and you have to focus on the positives, or is that something that they need to get better
at? I guess it's twofold, isn't it? I think it's great to have them. It's great to see them working as a team. But there is definite improvements required from not just those two in midfield. I think the majority of the midfield need to actually have a bit more input and a bit more actual goal scoring threat. So that's something that's not just solely down to those two players. I know Haring scored in the cup game, and I think he scored one other league goal. Halliday, okay, he played a number of different positions, has scored a couple of league goals. But midfield, and we spoke about it probably about 5-6 weeks ago now, the midfield needs to do a lot more from the point of view of actual goal scoring. They need to contribute a hell of a lot more. And from that point of view, it's maybe staying back on after training and having some shooting practice for the midfield.
So I'm not going to go after. I don't mean to go after Robbie when I say this, but a good manager will develop players. So if there is something there, I mean, how often have you seen again? It's unfair to say this, but you look at managers in the Premier League: Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. I'm mentioning Robbie Nielsen in the same breath. That's without a drink. Actually, lies, I've poured one, but it's like a good manager will develop players in that position to adapt to the needs of the overall team and what his vision is around that. So if we're lacking that from Benny and Devlin just now, I fully expect that the coaching regime at the club should be working on that. And because if we can see it, they can see it. Yeah. They should absolutely be developing these players. So what I would expect to see in an ideal scenario is by the end of the season, again, I'm not expecting them to go out and start hitting shots for the halfway line against Livy on Saturday, but over the next few weeks and months, that need must be identified, fixed, and a patch worked on. If that makes sense, to try and develop these players to be better in that position for the needs of the team.
And look, we've had our pants pulled in the then scalp today by a team that was ruthless, and it's everything that's missing from us right now. because, again, you don't want to start to go through teams at every individual within the team, but there's too many in the midfield, for example, that don't have enough goals. You know, Peter Haring scored against Auchinleck, but he hasn't got a league goal. Benny doesn't have a league goal. Devlin doesn't have a league goal. Barry Mackay doesn't have a league goal. Like, they need to start chipping in, because don't get me wrong, they absolutely chip in other aspects of it. But games like Tuesday, where you think, right, well, actually, you know, Boyce and Sims are going to get most of the attention because they're going to put two on them. They're going to try and stop us getting the ball to them. So that's where you need people like Mackay, like Devlin, like Benny, like Atkinson, like Halliday, to get past the strikers, get in the positions and start asking questions, which, again, don't get me wrong, I thought they were very good in spells in terms of doing what they were asked to do in the midfield, but they need to carry a goal threat for me. The other thing actually was just about, I don't even know if is it game management? Is it game intelligence? I don't know, but you're saying the thing, you could have picked who was going to get booked on Tuesday night, and the booking to Halliday, for example, it comes early in the game and it absolutely renders him useless for the remainder of the match because he plays on the edge. Same, it's like things like Cammy Devlin as well. They put tackles in, they're tenacious, they're in your face, and they get booked, and it pulls them to 80% because they can't go on.
Because it was quite early as well, wasn't it?
Aye,
It's
it
like, I
was,
want to say it was in like the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm sure, because there was like three bookings that happened all like in pretty quick succession. And it almost makes you a wee bit impotent.
Aye, it did, and it took him out of the game in terms of an attacking sense. Second half, I said the positive for Hearts, the overall positive for Hearts was Toby Sibbick looked superb, albeit never really put under huge amount of pressure from Dodger and Nisbet, to be honest, because I thought they were anonymous. But anything that came his way, anything he had to deal with, I felt he dealt with very well, barring one very slack pass that almost cost us. But everything else, I thought he looked very good. But Sims, I thought was brilliant. Very, very direct, brilliant on his feet, and I liked that he had a couple of opportunities where he's picked the ball up maybe 35, 40 yards away from their goal, outside of the lines of the box, and the first thing to do was he just drove at the box and made them make decisions. Like, do you know what I mean? The goalkeepers made a couple of good saves. He should have had the penalty, but I thought he caused them problems all game long, which then baffles the decision today as to why the fuck is he on the bench.
100%.
I think the only thing that maybe is a factor there is we don't know how much game time. Well, someone knows, I'm sure, what his game time's been like at Everton before he came up here. Then maybe it's just been a bit of a stretch too far. Wednesday took it out of him, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to editorialise or make excuses, but it's one of those ones where I looked at the team sheet for today. I was like, nah, the same thing as you, Corbett. What the fuck? He needs to start. I don't care if he's fucking tired. Like,
Get him on.
Let him. Aye, exactly. Let him play the first 45 minutes, and then let's grow into the game pish and try and win it from 60 minutes onwards. But aye, that's what it is.
Right, and then there's two other talking points to talk about. One of them is obviously the most obvious one. Kev, we talked about the biggest annoyance in football is when referees take guesses. Talk me through the whole one. Is it denying a goal scoring opportunity with the goalkeeper? You know, I know that you can't have double jeopardy when it's penalties and all that sort of stuff. If your keeper gives away a penalty, he can't then be sent off. But that's clearly denying a goal scoring opportunity. He's dived at the feet, saved it. We've had an indirect free kick. So does the keeper get sent off there? Does he get booked there? What the fuck are the actual rules?
God knows. But the only answer you can give, we've gone on about it till we're blue in the face about the decisions by referees this season, and don't give me any of this swings and roundabouts shite because we've just not had the rub of the green for many of the decisions this season.
Well, we have, but Boyce has missed 3 of the penalties, so that's.
But let's not slay him. Let's not slay him.
Let's say we've never had any of the marginal decisions, like anything that could have been like give or take in the past fucking 4 games. For example, the defender at Auchinleck punched it. 3 onside goals that were given as offside. Near Beaton should have been sent off for a second-hand ball. Andy Halder should have the penalty against Motherwell. And then obviously you've got the 2 things that have happened here. So the indirect free kicks awarded, fair enough. I don't know enough. I've been Googling it all week to see what the actual rule is for there. I don't know if the keeper should be sent off. I don't know if that's classed as a goal scoring opportunity. I don't know if it's that double jeopardy comes into play because we've been awarded an indirect free kick, so he then can he be sent off? I don't know. It felt at the time, if he doesn't dive and touch that ball, we tap the ball into the empty net because they've made an absolute to it. So again, it feels like, well, it's double jeopardy against Hearts. 1, we don't score, they get to keep their keeper, and you get an indirect free kick 12 yards to goal that we've made an absolute in the last 2 games. So let's talk about now. This second penalty decision, Kev, is the one where the referee got some of my sympathy, because again, these are 50-50 for the handball, and there's no distance between them, and it's one of those ones that if it's given, it's given. But to be honest, I can understand why it's not being given. Yeah,
I'm in agreement with you. Out of the 3 decisions, that's the one that I can understand why the referee's not giving it. In fact, actually, does anyone know how Porteous is?
Well, we're going to talk about that in a wee second.
Okay, that's fine. I'm glad that we're looking after our effective future in regards to international football, but nobody gives a shit about international football anyway, so fuck it. But the whole aspect is, why firstly is Porteous holding his face when he doesn't even actually get anywhere near the ball? Secondly, it hits his hand. If it hadn't hit his hand, the ball I think would have also landed at Cochrane's feet. I think Cochrane then would have scored anyway. So there's a number of different elements that comes into that whole decision making. But the element that we go on about is the fact that the referee is no more than 10 yards away, looking at the actual decision. So how can he make the actual decision that he finally makes and awards them a free kick? Didn't get it. I just honestly don't get it. I've stopped trying to even try and work it out, to be honest with you, because my head was hurting on Wednesday morning, and not from drink.
Aye, it is. Right, wait there, because I'm going to rewatch it just for the sake of it. I'm going to rewatch it because this is what my point was going to be. And Ando, you might be hanging it here, right? We said before, the biggest thing that annoys me in football with refs is when they guess, right? Hearts have an indirect free kick inside the box, right? So if you're the referee, what are you looking at for first and foremost when your wall is 10 yards away from a ball that's already 15 yards for goal?
2 things. You're looking at a potential handball, and you're looking at the wall jumping the line. Exactly. That's the 2 main things, right? And your linesman effectively obviously should be up with the most forward opposition player in order to determine offside. So that's what obviously he should be looking at. But in terms of the referee should be positioned to look for jumping the line or handball in the wall. End of. That's it. There's nothing else that's a consideration.
Exactly. Right. So they're the things he's already should be looking for, right? So Hearts hit the free kick. He decides that it doesn't hit his hand or whatever, doesn't hit his arm, right? So he's decided, fine, play on. That's no bother at all. It's Stevenson's arm that it hits, not Ryan Porteous. So why does he then let play go on for a minute or 30 seconds, what felt like 5 minutes at the time, where Hearts recycle the ball, start to come back to play again, and he stops the game for a head knock to Ryan Porteous, who he knows didn't get hit in the face because he's saying that hit Lewis Stevenson. It does make any sense. It's just total guesswork. You think, what the fuck have you seen?
There's an additional factor at play here, and I was quite vocal in the group chat about this, is that Ryan Porteous, for me, is the single biggest pellet of a man that has ever walked through the doors at Easter Road in the last 2 or 3 years, right? The guy is an absolute tit, and I'm not scrubbing that, right? Like
You're going to
has,
become a meme. You're going to be a meme
Aye.
on Hibs.net because you're
you know
so
what?
better.
I'm absolutely all for it. Am I bitter against Ryan Porteous? Yes. The guy's an absolute fuckstick. And I'll probably edit that one. But is maybe. But no, he just an absolute absolute wank, man. All he's done is con the ref there. And do you blame the referee? It's one of those ones that like I'm always a little bit sympathetic towards referees. They only get to see it once. They don't have super slow motion replays like the guys at Sky or whoever. I get it. I absolutely understand how mistakes can be made, but the situation is, as you've outlined it, is just it's common sense that's fucking been absolutely lost here. How can it be one player that this has happened to, and then all of a sudden another player goes down holding the face? There's something in the referee's brain just not register to go, what the fuck? I've just made an absolute rip roaring to this here.
Well, here's the other one. Like, if Tony Sibic does that other end, we're loving it, aren't we?
Of course.
Exactly. That's just what we're doing. So for the Hibs fans watching,
That's the petty and small-mindedness of the rivalry.
Exactly. And there you go. We end it on Toby Sibic because he's Taylor Moore, sells the jerseys, loses his man, pays no attention, and Tony Sibic has to clear it off the line to save our blushes. And actually, it was bad enough dropping points to that shite, but to have been beat off them would have been the biggest kick in the fucking teeth, considering it took them 86 minutes to register a shot on target. They caused us no problems the full game. But again, Hearts were simply not good enough. And Kev, we'll end it on this before we jump into reviewing or previewing the Dundee games, right? We have now played Celtic 4 times, Rangers 3 times, Hibs twice, Aberdeen twice. We have 1 win, 4 draws, 7 defeats. That I said on Twitter, this season will not be defined by our performance in the big games, right? Because we have taken care of the run-of-the-mill stuff, which was, if we were to put a list of our priorities, we get demoted having beaten Rangers twice and Hibs twice. And we've beat Aberdeen, we've beat Hibs, that's fine, we do that. It was the other games we weren't picking up points on the road. We weren't picking up points at home against the lesser side, so to speak. So if you were to list where your priorities for this season, performance in the big games has probably been near the bottom of your list. It was taking care of business in terms of where we are. We're sitting 12 points, 10 points clear and third, 12 points ahead of Hibs or whatever. But the future of the club, where we want to be, the aspirations, we've spoke to Andrew McKinley, we've spoke to Joe Savage, we've spoke to Anne Budge. We know where the ambition of the football club lies. That return, Robbie has 2 wins in 9 against Hibs, 1 win in 90 minutes versus Hibs. That has to change in the long term, didn't it? Because fans, these are the things that Hearts fans demand. Even our shittest teams and our shittest managers pick up victories in the derby.
Yeah, I think that's all that needs to be said. But you're right. We knew perfectly well when we came up this was going to be a big season. It was a season where, as far as I was concerned, and from what we've heard around about the club, this was the club's aspirations was to get back into that top, let's say, class it as top 4 positions within the league. So 3rd or 4th, I think, would probably be where the club would want to be come the end of the season. And as you rightly say, because we've done the hard work against the lesser sides and we've picked up the right amount of points, it would appear that we are going to achieve that 3rd or 4th place, right? I'm going to set that caveat. We should be 3rd, right? But just in case, I'm going to say or 4th. So from that point of view, yes. So in my opinion, as we are now getting very, very close to the split. I think we said before we started recording, there's 8 league games before the split. We now have to be thinking about what does next season look like, and next season is where we do have to then perform to the same standards against the lesser teams, but we need to actually up our game against, as you rightly say, Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Aberdeen. However, they are falling like a brick at this moment in time, and I'm enjoying it. So from that point of view, I think there is an element that we do need to. We've set a standard now, and we want to improve on that standard for next season.
Ando?
It's just you kind of almost stole the point there, which is if we look at where we are just now, I think the ambition for the club was obviously to get back up, consolidate a good finish. However, we've been, and this might be a little bit controversial, but we've been aided this season by the fact that the floor has fallen out from underneath Aberdeen. They're absolutely shite. We've also been helped by Hibs just being utterly dreadful. And who does that leave in that sort of that range? Ourselves and Motherwell. Obviously, thus far, Motherwell don't have the strength and depth of squad to be able to challenge us. So it's almost by default that we're getting third place. Don't get me wrong, we have played some fantastic football this season. We've played well. But to your point, Corbett, we haven't really smashed it against the bigger teams or in the derbies, wiping the floor with a bigger opposition. And absolutely that needs to be the focus for next season. So I think this year, yes, it is a success no matter what happens now. And let's not be dicks here. Not going to jinx it. We will finish third. We'll finish third, I think, by a distance. And if not, obviously come for me. I'll make my address publicly available. You can send me dog shit through the post, whatever you want to do. We will finish third, and it'll be lauded as a success. But we've been helped on the way.
Of course, but well, the caveat is that we said when we sat in front of Joe Savage before Cove Rangers, was that who it was at Tynecastle?
Was I?
Hangway. And pointed out that if Hearts failed to finish in the top 4 this season, this run currently becomes the standalone second worst run in the club's history of finishing outside the top 4 positions within Scottish football, right? It's not us trying to blow our trumpet, it's not Hearts fan mentalness, it is where we are in our standing within Scottish football. Hearts are historically the 3rd or the 4th best team in Scottish football. That's where we are. For the past 10 years, we've been an absolute shit show in terms of on and off the field. We've had our own problems, and that's why I said at the start of the season that I knew that Robbie would stabilise us. His performance as a Hearts manager, his stats are a joke. His big game record is pretty poor, but if it continually gets Hearts to where they are and where they should be, which is 4th and 3rd or 4th at worst, then he reestablishes back where we've been historically, and that's fine. The caveat is that Hibs and Aberdeen historically, when Rangers are out the league, Aberdeen had a bit of a spurt in terms of where they were finishing. That coincides with the fact that Hearts and Hibs and Rangers dropped at the top flight. When you say things are all fair and equal and on a level playing field, where we go back to having a strong Rangers, a strong Celtic, a strong Hearts, a strong Hibs, a strong Aberdeen, the Hibs historically finish between 4th and 7th. It's where they finish 9 times out of 10. Aberdeen historically finish between 4th and 11th, depending on who's got what stadium capacity or whatever.
Knickers.
Exactly. So this season is absolutely, like we've said, it was about re-establishing where Hearts are in Scottish football, and that's what we'll do. We will finish no lower than 4th this season, but barring an absolute fucking collapse, we'll finish 3rd. It's next year, for me, as disappointing as those results are. Now, getting me wrong, there's potentially and hopefully 2 derbies left in the season. There's one more game against Aberdeen. You write them off for the top 6. That's not happening. And then we have Celtic and Rangers again before the end of the season. So potentially we've got 4 more games against the top 4 sides in Scotland, to put that right. Rangers review. Rangers 5, Hearts 0. Move on. Nobody gives a fuck. Right. Wednesday, we're at home to Dundee. Kev, Dundee, bottom of the league, 8 points now behind Ross County. looking like they're absolute relegation fodder. Hearts 0, Dundee 2.
Or score draw. Aye, it's the usual, isn't it? Why do we do it to ourselves? Seriously, why do we do it to ourselves?
Because it's a fucking good laugh. That's why.
Fucking pish. But no, it's not going to be Hearts 0, Dundee 2 on Wednesday night. I'm expecting a reaction, probably as much a reaction as Rangers fans expected out of their team after their shit show on Wednesday night. I'm expecting the same kind of a response from the team on Wednesday night against Dundee. And anything less than a 3-0 home victory, I'll be slightly disappointed with.
Fair, Ando, same?
More or less, aye. You're looking at the goals against column for Dundee. There's the Ross County have lost more goals, but they've scored way more. So like Dundee conceded 41 goals so far this season, only scoring 19 after playing 24 games. Genuinely, right, and I know I say this all the time, but it's patter and it's funny. But in my predictor, I will be taking Hearts 6, Dundee 0. They are going to get absolutely shagged on Wednesday. But because I'm going to the game and I can actually make it, it's going to be a hard-fought 1-0 victory at Hearts. That is exactly what's going to happen because I'm there. I've taken a half day for work. Tell the missus she can't have the car. I'm driving up. I'm going to be looking forward to it all day. I'm going to be playing nothing but Hearts tunes in my playlist all the way up on the 3-hour drive up to bloody Edinburgh for it to be a hard-fought 1-0 in the howling wind, pissing rain, probably going to snow as well. So that's what's going to happen.
Zach Rodden hat-trick, 3-0 Dundee. Easy. Easy. Right, we did a start of the 2022. We did a first 5 games of this sort of the New Year prediction thing, which was Auchinleck, St Johnstone, Auchinleck, Motherwell, Celtic, and then Hibs. Ando, can you remember what you said? How many points would we have? How many wins? How many defeats? All that sort of stuff.
I think I can. So if I think back to it, I would have said what 3 points against St Johnstone, which was right. We'd beat Auchinleck, which is essentially 3 points. We would draw against Celtic, which never happened. We'd beat Motherwell. We'd beat Hibs and we'd draw against Rangers. So I had us getting whatever that is, 10 points. And 10 points.
That's more than 10 points, like
3, 6, 9, 10, 11. 11 points at 15. Right.
Well, you're right. 10 points because we didn't include the Rangers game. That's 6 games, isn't it? Five league games, 1 in the cup. It was just the first five games. So you've went 1 too many with the Rangers game. But
either way, I fucked it. But we've beaten everyone I thought we would beat, bar Hibs. I thought we'd get a draw against Celtic and Rangers, and some arsehole's gonna clip me from whatever episode it was where I've absolutely not said that. I think the only one that we're falling short on for me, I think, is the Hibs game. That's it. And obviously Rangers Celtic.
Kev, can you remember what you said?
Yes, because I've got them on my notebook here. So I had us to...
Such a swat, aren't you?
Oh, aye, big time, mate. I had us to win 2-0 against St Johnstone, 4-0 against Auchinleck. I had us for a 1-1 draw against Celtic. Motherwell 2-0, and I had Hibs. We had us to beat Hibs 2-1. Yep, so only got 3 right. So pish.
Same as me, Kev. To be fair, I said we would beat St Johnstone, beat Auchinleck. I think I said we'd beat Motherwell, but we'd get beat off Celtic and we'd beat Hibs. So Hibs game is the outlier for all of us there. Next 5 then, we've got Dundee Wednesday, then Livingston in the Cup on Saturday. Then we have away at St Johnstone, away at St Mirren, and at home to Aberdeen. So, Ando, out of the 5, how many wins, how many losses, how many draws?
Very, very quickly, Dundee resounding win, Livingston win, St Johnstone will be a win, St Mirren will be a win, and at home Aberdeen, I'm going to say a draw for that one.
If we draw at home to Aberdeen, I am fucking rioting. They are absolute rubbish.
They are crap, and they're in free fall just now. And you know what? Keep Stephen Glass there as long as possible because it's absolutely hilarious. But we'll draw against them. Telling you.
That's Rangers. Hibs are at Ibrox on Wednesday, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And Aberdeen are at home to Celtic. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
effectively, Hearts win on Wednesday. You can kiss. They're already not going to finish above us, but it effectively makes us 15 points ahead of Hibs and 18 points ahead of Aberdeen.
Oh, I don't have the table in front of me, but it'll be close to that. There, sorry, we're on 43. They're on 29. So, yeah, it would be.
Right, Kev, going in.
So I was thinking about this before. I've got us for a 3-0 victory on Wednesday night. 2-0 against Livy. Because we never won at McDermott Park, and they're bottom of the league or near enough bottom of the league, it'll be a score draw because we can't win in Perth for some fucking strange reason. The one that I think might be a difficult one is St Mirren away, and I've put us down. I've put us down for a draw, and then I've put us for a very narrow 1-0 victory against Aberdeen.
Well, again, Livingston's the one for me that worries me the most because Livingston are actually in pretty good form just now. Although they were absolute dog shit at Tynecastle at the start of the season, I can't see them being that poor again, if I'm being honest with you. So Livingston's the one that scares me out of all of them the most. But I think we'll beat Dundee. I think we'll beat Livy. I think we will draw with St Johnstone. I think we'll draw in St Mirren, and I think we'll beat Aberdeen. So it's at 3, 6, 7, 8 points. I've said 8 points and through to the next round of the cup.
Easy.
Right, Kev. That's just pretty much done. Gears, we don't do the answers to the quiz. The Kev McKenna's.
Sure can. So, first McKenna for today was this player celebrates his birthday on the same day as myself on the 21st of January. He was signed by Levine in his first spell from Airdrie for 135 grand, which I still can't believe. And he will be remembered for a sublime strike against Celtic. I do believe you've got it, Corbett. Ando, you were racking your brain for signings from Airdrie. Did you get it?
No, I didn't, mate. I didn't have time to Google. There's only three of us on this the night, so I've not had any spare time.
It's a Shanks McCann special.
It is Shanks McCann special, correct?
Mr. Austin McCann. With an absolute worldie against Celtic.
That screamer, exactly, which effectively won the league for Rangers that day, didn't it?
Sure
because I can remember
that
that'll
game. Be good for our YouTube commentator who keeps calling us mini Huns or whatever it is. When we won the league for our cousins.
I can't remember the guy's name, and it'll take too long to log in to get it. But didn't worry, love. It's okay.
We've seen it. It was fine.
We've not replied to you, but we thought we'll send you a wee message in person. So
I celebrated. I hope you're okay for my cousins that day because I loved it. Get it right up, yes. And then I cried myself laughing watching his greeting at Helicopter Sunday. Ruined everyone. Right, go. He's the next one, Kev.
And the second one was started his career in Belgium before he moved to Roda in Holland. Played over 100 league games for Hearts, scoring 14 league goals. Currently playing in Cyprus, but hasn't kicked a ball this season due to injury. And he was the winner of the AFCON Championship, which I thought was rather splitting, given the fact that it was the final of the season. And the answer is...
Joom. He comes from Cameroon, wherever it goes like. Arnold Joom.
Didn't give me however it goes. You know perfectly well. You sing it to your daughters before they go to bed every night.
The Venga Boys are in the top 5 greatest bands ever live. But that is a different podcast.
Absolute fact.
That is a different podcast. You could play anybody 5 seconds of a Venga Boys song and they would go, "That's the Venga Boys," and that is masterful. That's how you know their song.
Brand recognition.
Exactly, mate. Outstanding. Right. That's pretty much it. Win it. Terrible week all round. COVID. Shat the bed v Hibs. Pumped in Glasgow. Fan dabby dozy. Win it.
It is quite good. It's just the only one highlight is I wish I had Shanks on here talking absolute shit in my ear, and Tam as well. The wee tube that he is telling me Atkinson was utter jobbies today, but we'll pick that up in the next episode when he's back, and we'll get a full-on pay-per-view boxing fight.
Aye, and for anybody that wants to know, Shanks likes rugby and was trying to argue with us yesterday about the Scotland rugby game as he was wearing his flares and his base London loafers, drinking his pal's piss. So that's why he's missed. That's why he's missed tonight. He broke his finger, shoving his finger up Angus's arse. Right, boys. See you next week. And I'll see you all after Dundee.
See you later.
Gorgero.